Mantras of our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the voice replied, remember why thou camest, find out thy soul, recover thy hid self, in silence seek God's meaning in thy depths, then mortal nature change to the divine. With always our love and blessings, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo's Savitri. Book 2. The Book of the Traveller of the World. Canto 1. The World Stared. Alone he moved, watched by the infinity around him and the unknowable above. All could be seen that shuns the mortal eye. All could be known the mind has never grasped. All could be done no mortal will can dare. A limitless moment filled a limitless peace. In a profound existence beyond earth's, parent or kin to our ideas and dreams, where space is a vast experiment of the soul, in a deep oneness of all things that are, the universe of the unknown arose. A self-creation without end or pause, revealed the grandeurs of the infinite. It flung into the hazards of its play a million moods, a myriad energies. The world shapes that are fancies of its truth, and the formulas of the freedom of its force. It poured into the ever-stable flux, a Bacchic rapture and revel of ideas, a passion and motion of everlastingness. There rose, unborn, into the unchanging surge, thoughts that abide in their deathless consequence, words that immortal last though fallen mute, acts that brought out from silence its dumb sense, lines that convey the inexpressible. Prayer for a disciple, one of the messages given by our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Mother, be with me now and always. Envelop me with your presence. Raise and purify me with your touch. Inhabit me with your living image. Transform all dullness and darkness into bright and perfect faith. Transform all restlessness and agitation into inviolable calm and peace. Transform all attachment into a deep and stainless purity. Mother, liberate and change me, perfect your child. This is a prayer for a disciple. Words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo, taken from the collective works of our Lord Sri Aurobindo, SABCL. The Mother with letters. Topic: The Mother's Presence. Subtopic: The Mother's Presence and the Divine Consciousness. Page 111. Question: Is there any difference between the Mother's Presence and the Divine Consciousness? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, one can feel the Divine Consciousness impersonally as a new consciousness only. The Mother's Presence is something more. One feels herself there, present within, or above, or enveloping one or all these together. Next subtopic: the Mother's Presence within. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, he must go into himself and find the presence of the Divine Mother within and the psychic behind the heart, and from there the knowledge will come and all the power to dissolve the inner obstacles. The constant presence of the Mother comes by practice. The constant presence of the Mother comes by practice. The divine grace is essential for success in the sadhana, but it is the practice that prepares the descent of the grace. You have to learn to go inward, ceasing to live in external things only, quiet the mind and aspire to become aware of the Mother's working in you. Question: how and when can one feel the Mother's concrete presence at all the time? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, it is a matter, first, of the constant activity of the psychic, and secondly, of the conversion of the physical and its openness to inner supraphysical experience. Apart from the vital and its disturbances, the physical is the chief difficulty in establishing a continuity of yogic consciousness and experience. If the physical is thoroughly transformed, opened and conscious, then stability and continuity becomes easy. It is quite right, says our Lord, and part of the right consciousness in sadhana that you feel drawn in your heart towards the Mother and aspire for the vision and realization of her presence. But there should not be any kind of restlessness joined to this feeling. The feeling should be quietly intense. It will then be easier for the sense of the presence to come and to grow in you. Question: is it true that when the presence or the image is seen in the heart, all the habits and moments of the lower nature disappear? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the image and the presence are not the same. One can feel the presence without seeing the image, but to produce the results you speak of, the presence in the heart is not sufficient. There must be presence in the whole consciousness and the force of the mother governing all the action of the nature. Question. In the evening meditation, there was an intense moment of surrender from the heart. I had the feeling of mother's presence immediately in front. An aspiration rose from below the feet, from the legs, from the Mooladhara. There was a willing and loving surrender from the heart, from the entire being as if for fulfillment. I suppose the psychic being came to the front, but why did I feel the mother's presence in front and not within me? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, you had the psychic condition, and then that means a coming of the influence of the psychic being to the front. It is when there is a complete psychic opening that there is the presence within. The presence in front means that it was with you but had still to enter within. But I do not see why I call the feeling sentimental or think that your sense of the presence of the mother in the heartbeats was unreal. It was your psychic being that suggested to you. And the response showed that the consciousness was ready. Mother felt that something was happening in you and felt that it was the beginning of a realization. She was encouraging it and did not discourage. If it had been a wrong or vital moment, she would not have felt like that, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo. The presence during the day. If you feel, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo, if you feel the mother's presence for the greater part of the day, it means that it is your psychic being that is active and feels like that. For without the activity of the psychic, it will not be possible. Therefore, your psychic being is there and not at all far off. The presence during sleep. The feeling of the mother's presence during sleep follows naturally the presence of the divine in the waking state, but it takes a little time. Question. Can one be wide awake to the mother's presence in sleep even? For this, our Lord says, that does happen, but usually only when the psychic is in full activity. The presence in work. It is for most people not easy to feel the mother's presence with the work. They feel as if they are doing the work, the mind getting busy and not having the right passivity or quietude. Feeling of presence and oneness with the mother. Our Lord says, there is no such necessary precedence as that first one must feel the presence and then only can one feel oneself the mother's. It is more often the increase of the feeling that brings the presence. For the feeling comes from the psychic consciousness, and it is the growth of the psychic consciousness that makes the constant presence at last possible. The feeling comes from the psychic, and it is true of the inner being. Its not being yet fulfilled, the whole, does not make it an imagination. On the contrary, the more it grows, the more is the likelihood of the whole being fulfilling this truth. The inner bhava takes more and more possession of the outer consciousness and remolds it so as to make it a truth there also. This is the constant principle of action in the yogic transformation. What is true within comes out and takes possession of the mind and heart and will, and through them prevails over the ignorance of the outer members and brings the inner truth out there also. Question. Some sadhaks say that they are in union with the mother. I wonder if it is anything more than a feeling of nearness with the mother, which they sometimes have. For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, I suppose they are trying to feel the mother's presence. So if they get some sort of feeling of nearness, they call it union. But of course, that is only a step towards union, and union is much more than that. Question. You wrote yesterday, openness is now reckoned merely by visions. Quite so, but to have a fusion of the rays of the sun and the moon on each side of the body, and to feel the descent and the mother's presence in, behind, and above oneself, is it not an exceptional vision and experience? Can it occur without sufficient opening to the mother? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, why should it be exceptional to see the sun and moon on each side, or to feel the mother's presence everywhere around? There are plenty of sadhaks who have had these or equivalent experiences. What could be exceptional is to feel the mother's presence like that always. But occasional experiences like those, many have had. Question. During meditation, I feel a sort of oneness with the mother's consciousness, but these days it is not possible to go deep in meditation at all. Is it not possible to have this feeling of oneness without meditating? For this, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, what is more important is the change of consciousness, of which this feeling of oneness is a part. The going deep in meditation is only a means, and it is not always necessary if the great experience comes easily without it. Writing and feeling her presence. Writing to the mother and feeling her presence is the next topic. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the feeling of the mother's presence or nearness does not depend on whether you write or you do not write. Many who write often do not feel it. Some who write seldom feel her, always very close. Feeling of the mother's presence. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the mother's presence is always there, but if you decide to act on your own idea, your own notion of things, your own will, and demand upon things, then it is quite likely that her presence will get veiled. It is not she who withdraws from you, but you who draw back from her. But your mind and vital don't want to admit that because it is always their preoccupation to justify their movements. If the psychic way allowed its full predominance, this would not happen. It would have felt the feeling, but it would at once have said, there must have been some mistake in me, a mist has arisen in me, and it would have looked and found the cause. The presence whose fading you regret can only be felt if the inner being continues to be consecrated and the outer nature is put into harmony, or at least kept under the touch of the inner spirit. But if you do things which your inner being does not approve, the condition will be eventually tarnished, and each time the possibility of your feeling the presence will diminish. You must have a strong will to purification and an aspiration that does not flag and cease if the mother's grace is to be there and effective. Next subtopic, opening and surrender to the Divine Mother. The central secret of sadhana is the subtopic. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, by remaining psychically open to the Mother, all that is necessary for work or sadhana develops progressively. That is one of the chief secrets, the central secret of the sadhana. But it is not by upadesha that this sadhana is given or carried on. It is only those who are capable by aspiration and meditation on the Mother to open and receive her action and working within that can succeed in this yoga. It is a mistake to exercise the mind about these things and try to arrange them with ordinary mind. It is by confidence in the Mother that the opening needed will come when your consciousness is ready. There is no harm arranging your present work so that there will be time and energy for some meditation, but it is not by meditation alone that what is needed will come. It is by faith and openness to the Mother. Keep yourself open to the Mother and in perfect union with her. Make yourself entirely plastic to her touch and let her mount you swiftly towards perfection. You have only to aspire. Keep yourself open to the Mother, to reject all that is contrary to her will and to let her work in you, doing also all your work for her and in the faith that it is through her force that you can do it. If you remain open in this way, the knowledge and realization will come to you in due course. To practice integral yoga implies the will to overcome all attachments and turn to the divine alone. The principal thing in the yoga is to trust in the divine grace at every step, to direct the thought continually to the divine, and to offer oneself till the being opens and the Mother's force can be felt working in oneself. All things are the divine because the divine is there, but hidden, not manifest. When the mind goes out to things, it is not with the sense of the divine in them, but for the appearance only which conceal the divine. It is necessary, therefore, for you as a sadhak to turn entirely to the Mother in whom the divine is manifest and not run after the appearances, the desire of which or the interest in which prevents you from meeting the divine. Once the being is consecrated, then it can see the divine everywhere, and then it can conclude all things in the one consciousness without a separate interest.